What's up guys, this is Seville with another Marvel Legends action figure review. Today, I'll be talking about the Target exclusive Hawkeye and Black Widow Quantum Suit 2-pack. Let's get them out of the box. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and comment below. And if you want to see more from me, please subscribe and hit that notification bell. While this pack includes extra heads for Ant-Man, Iron Man, and Nebula, in all honesty, the main reason I got this pack in the first place was for the new head sculpts of Jeremy Renner and Scarlett Johansson. If my memory serves me correctly, there has not been a movie Hawkeye figure since the first Avengers. Meaning, this is the first Jeremy Renner head sculpt to take advantage of the newest technologies. But it's Scarlett Johansson's second one because she had the blonde-haired version in Infinity War last year. I do prefer Black Widow as a redhead, and it's nice to finally have a good sculpt of Hawkeye's face. Even though the paint for his eyes on mine does make him a little bit cross-eyed. The male body is very similar to the Captain America figure that's in the main wave, but the female body is exclusive to this set. Overall, the sculpts are really nice with fully detailed parts throughout, whether it comes to the different plates of armor or the mesh sculpting in the middle. My only real complaint about the suits is that they're not really screen accurate, because in the movie they were solid white with the black and red, but here it's silver. It shouldn't be silver, it should be white. Now, let's take a look at the articulation on both figures. The heads do spin all the way around, with a good range of up and down movement for both figures. The shoulders also spin all the way around and move backwards. The biceps do have full rotation, and surprisingly, both figures do have double jointed elbows. And they do both have torso joints, but they're each made differently. For Hawkeye, it's the simple back and forth ab crunch, but for Black Widow, it's a ball joint. Therefore, her crunch and rotation all comes from the same piece, but Hawkeye needs the separate waist joint. The legs pretty much share all the same joints on each figure, in the hips, thighs, the double knees, and the ankles, which do have some really good pivot motion for plenty of stances. To make your hunt for this 2-pack at Target a little bit easier, here's its barcode. Also, since I have it handy, here's the barcode for the single-pack Ronin figure that I'll be comparing to a little later on, which does have an Amazon link in my description. Because these suits were worn by many different characters in the movie, each one can be used to represent several different characters with a simple head swap. Therefore, turning Hawkeye into Ant-Man or Iron Man, or turning Black Widow into Nebula. However, not all the Marvel Legends neck pegs are universal. I thought I might swap out the Steve Rogers, Chris Evans head down here from the 10th anniversary series, but its hole is too small, the peg won't fit inside. But, on the bright side, a couple of things I did determine that will work are putting the Jeremy Renner head on the Ronin figure body, plus giving the Infinity War version of Black Widow her red hair back. The things that do or don't swap out appropriately seem to be somewhat inconsistent at best, so there might be a bit of trial and error depending on what figures you have in your collection. While I've got the Ant-Man and Nebula heads on here, I'm going to go ahead and compare them to a couple of their recent counterparts. Nebula is another great example of the vast improvements made by the changes in recent technologies. The standard Nebula on the right side is from the Guardians of the Galaxy 2 line from 2017. And now, seeing it next to the Quantum Suit version, I can see that it really looks nothing like Karen Gillian. But here on the 2019 version, you can definitely see evidence of her scan. Beyond that, the colors are also a lot more vibrant, with the exception of the black lines no longer being in the details. Also, the general shape of her head is a little more rounded and slightly larger. And of course, on this side, she has the new gold plates that are now part of her look. And in case you're wondering if the new head can go on the old body, it can, but it's going to be loose because the neck pegs are not the same size. The older one is a little bit smaller, so it's not really a perfect swap. So now, onto the Ant-Man helmet. The shorter answer is yes, it's the exact same sculpt as the helmet from Ant-Man and Wasp, with the only real differences being the colors to better match the suit. Onto the final comparison with Iron Man. And wow, did Tony Stark shrink with that suit. By the way, the Iron Man I have here is the 10th anniversary version with the light up arc in his chest. And as you can see, the head sculpt for the Iron Man helmet is exactly the same as this version, but man, is the paint really off in those eyes. And now that I'm seeing these two figures side by side for the first time, I really wish they'd have made the quantum suits the size of this Iron Man figure. Especially since they give you the Iron Man helmet, because there's no way Tony Stark or Robert Downey Jr., however you want to look at it, is in both of those suits. And now that's making me want to show just how much of an issue scale might be with these figures. But when you compare it to the Ronin figure, it's okay. both of those could be the same guy wearing two different outfits. So how about the female body? Well, it looks close. The quantum suit body is a little taller, but the problem with that is the Infinity War Black Widow is already wearing wedge shoes. So imagine how much shorter she'd be without those. Therefore, much like Iron Man, it makes it a little bit difficult to imagine this being the same person wearing two different outfits. But at the end of the day, the issues with the scaling on these figures may just depend on what your plans are for them in your collection. So with all that said, it's time to run through my guidelines for a complete and fair review. Even though the male body is probably the same, or at least very similar to the one in the single pack Captain America, it's still basically a new sculpt since they're all released at the same time. And like most MCU Marvel Legends, they are highly detailed, but the colors were not accurate. Both the male and female bodies do have more than 20 points of articulation, but the scale could be off depending on which character you're trying to use it as. Both figures did balance pretty well, and of course they did have all the extra heads for accessories. The roughly $40 price point does seem fair since you are getting two figures. However, being Target exclusive may make them more difficult to find depending on what area you live in. And finally, I didn't really have a lot of quality control issues, but that Iron Man helmet's paint was rough, leading this 2-pack to a 6 out of 10 star rating, meaning it's still pretty awesome and worth owning for casual fans. Thank you guys for watching, and if you like this video,
get over here!
And subscribe to Civilian Collectibles.